This morning, U.S. attempts to craft an historic deal to curb Iran's nuclear weapons program have fallen apart. Secretary of State John Kerry had flown to Geneva for 2 days of marathon negotiations, the first direct talks between the U.S. and Iran in 36 years. Hopes were high for a deal until concerns were raised by France about whether they could trust Iran. Israel has called this a very bad deal, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu joins us now.
Thank you, Nora. Good morning.
I know that you never liked this deal from the beginning. Do you feel like the concerns you raised were heard?
I'm sure they were heard. I don't know if they'll be internalized into a different deal. A deal is not an end in itself, and I think Secretary Kerry said the right thing when he said that no deal is better than a bad deal. The deal, as was proposed and described to us by the American sources, and they described it as accurately as they can, means that Iran maintains its capability to enrich material for nuclear bombs. It also maintains another route, the plutonium heavy water route, to make nuclear bombs. All Iran gives is a minor concession of taking 20% enriched uranium and bringing it down to a lower enrichment, but that they could cover within a few weeks, given the capabilities that they keep for enrichment. So Iran effectively becomes a threshold nation, threshold nuclear power nation, makes a minor concession, and in exchange for that, the P5+1, the international community, reverses the direction of sanctions, gives Iran several $1 billion worth in direct assistance, opens up petrochemicals, opens up gold, diamond, the automotive industries, and other things. This is a huge change from the pressure that was applied on Iran through the effective sanctions regime, which brought them to the table in the first place. In other words, Iran gives practically nothing, and it gets a hell of a lot. That's not a good deal. I hope, I can only express my wish, that the P5+1 use the time to get a good deal that takes away Iran's nuclear military capability.
I know you describe these and believe these are minor concessions, but the United States, other Europeans believe this would be a historic deal because for the first time it would freeze their nuclear weapons program. Why would you not want to take that first step?
Because the whole thrust of the sanctions and the negotiations has been to get Iran to agree to what the international community has put forward and the Security Council resolution spelled out. Iran should take away its centrifuges, should take away its plutonium, should dismantle its plutonium heavy water reactors. Nora, how many centrifuges are dismantled in this agreement? Do you know?
Tell me.
Question?
Yes.
Zero. Not one. Zero. In other words, Iran maintains all its capabilities. It built itself up in the face of international decisions and resolutions. It defied them, went right up to very close to the top, and now it stays there. It doesn't bring down, dismantle one centrifuge. It continues to have the mountains of material from which they can take into the centrifuges and make atomic bombs. All they're doing is taking a little material that they've enriched to a higher degree and bringing it back. That's nothing. And remember, this is a country that has tens of thousands of people in the street chanting "Death to America" the other day. This is a country that is participating as we speak in the mass slaughter of men, women, children, tens of thousands of them in Syria. This is a country that is fomenting terror in 5 continents. This is a country that pledges to destroy the state of Israel and subvert so many of the other countries. It's not only my concern that this is a bad deal. There are many, many Arab leaders in the region who are saying this is a very bad deal for the region and for the world. And you know, when you have the Arabs and Israelis speaking in one voice, doesn't happen very often, I think it's worth paying attention to us.
Did you help lobby against this deal?
Lobby? Yes, of course I'm speaking lobby. That's an understatement. I speak up against it. I'm expressing, as I said, not only the concerns of Israel, but the concerns of many, many in the region. Some of them say it out loud, some of them say it behind closed doors, but I'll tell you, this is a broad feeling here, broad feeling that Iran is, might hit the jackpot here, and it's not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for America. It's not good for the Middle East. It's not good for Europe either. I don't think it's good for Russia or China. And by the way, I've spoken with the leaders of most of these countries.
Do you think President Obama has put too much trust in this new Iranian regime?
Look, I think the president and I share the goal of making sure that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. I think where we might have a difference of opinion is on how to prevent it. I think that what has been built up over time, sure, the Iranians have built the program over time, but the international community, led, by the way, by the United States, has built up a sanctions program that has been very, very effective. And it's got Iran to come to the table. Now what is happening is that for effectively nothing, or virtually no concessions, Iran gets to keep its nuclear capabilities, that is, the capabilities that enable it to manufacture the fissile material for nuclear bombs. I think the other aspects of metallurgy, weapons making, that's not even in the deal. That's another component of making the bomb. So they get to keep all that. And at the same time, the international community takes the one effective thing, which has been the sanctions regime, and they reverse direction. They begin to legitimize Iran as having these capabilities. That's a bad thing. But they take away the pressure. You know that the price of any good at any time is the expectation of what will be the future. And in Iran, where there's a lot of pressure these days, the pressure is going to be let off. The valve is going to be let off from the pressure cooker because people understand it's over. So it's not merely the direct benefits, the direct easements of the sanctions, but the multiplier effect of expectations. And that's going to relieve the pressure in Iran, and it's going to start, I'm afraid, a scramble in the international community who gets to ease their sanctions with Iran faster. Not a good idea. Not a good deal. A very bad deal.
Can I ask you, President Obama had said this week, though, that this deal would include very modest relief on the sanctions, and that there would be a freeze that would begin immediately, and then you could deal with the capability later on. Why are you not convinced that that could be the final deal that's reached, that this is a process?
Because the easing of the sanctions is a tremendous concession on the part of the P5+1, because there's a multiplier effect, a signaling effect to the markets, both inside Iran and the world, when you reverse a direction that you've been effectively putting, the direction of pressure and even more pressure on Iran, and now you're going the other way. That's like putting a hole in your tire, you know? It may not be a big hole, maybe a middle-sized hole or even a small hole, but the air begins to come out, and pretty soon you've got a flat tire. That's what puncturing the sanctions does. And I think that's exactly why the Iranians are interested in this deal, because they give nothing, but they get the hole in the tire of the sanctions, and the air begins to come out. That's what they want. And they're pretty shrewd. But I don't think they're that shrewd. I think we understand it. I think the region understands it. I hope that the P5+1 understand it, because that a bad deal is bad for them too. Ultimately, it's bad for the world.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, thank you.
Thank you.